Good morning and welcome to A Formula for Wealth. And my guest today is Donna Kennedy. Donna is a 6 times best-selling author and she's the founder of Women's Empowerment Summit. Donna, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's delighted to be here.
Thank you very much. It's good to have you here. We had a little chat before we recorded this, and one of the things we were talking about is your books that you've written. Do you want to tell us a little bit about them? Because 6 times bestseller, that's something
Yeah.
achievement.
Well, look, I guess my first book, I wrote it because I wanted to write a book. I had invested in property. I was going down the route of property presenting, TV presenting. And so that was the natural thing for me to write. I write what I know about. So then I had a car accident that kind of threw the direction off a little bit. And I decided then, because obviously I had been studying psychology in college, I had my own practice. So I decided that mindset was hugely important, because throughout my life, I've had challenges. Certainly in the first 20 years of my life, I had very difficult challenges. And to overcome them, there were certain things that I had to do, not just things that were great in theory. I had to do certain things. And when I was showing my clients how to do different things, they were getting results, every time. So I thought, well, this stuff has definitely worked for me. It's definitely worked for my clients. So it's information that I have that could potentially change somebody's life, if not transform it. So I decided to put it in books. And anything that I have that I feel has been a nugget to me or a nugget to somebody else, I think is worth passing on. And hopefully that's what I'm here for, is to make a difference. So maybe it was, my original property presenting route was changed to a different property or a different route. I think probably for a reason as well, but I'm glad that it has been, because I love what I do.
And do you invest in property?
Yes, property it's a solid investment. I think it's important when you buy it. It's important what you buy, and it's important to know what to do with it. So I think, it's one of those things that a lot of people can be afraid to do. I bought my first property at 24. I didn't really have an idea of what I was doing, because my parents weren't into huge property developing. They'd bought their house. Most of my family at that stage had bought a house. So for me, it was, I was renting. And I think I had spent at this point, whatever time I had sat down, and I remember being in my kitchen, and it was a rented house. And I remember thinking, I've given 32,000 euro to the people who own this house, and I've got nothing for it. So I wonder if I could buy a house and give 32,000 euro to the bank instead, and at least I'd have a house. So I kind of figured out how I could do it, that worked best for me. And I bought my first house at 24. And it's, I suppose, the sense of pride in doing that, the sense of having something that I could call my own. Although, as we all know, you never own anything until it's fully paid outright. But it gave me a tool then that I could use to invest in more property. And I enjoyed it, and it's one of those things that if, every month you need various different types of income, and property is another stream that you can use. But very importantly, and I saw a lot of people when I had bought my first property, and even investing, I saw a lot of people do the credit card thing, and getting out, ridiculous amounts of overvalued properties and that kind of thing, when really they couldn't afford to manage it. And I think when you do it that way, it's a risky way to do it. And there's obviously risk is involved in everything, but at least calculate a little bit of it. It's copying other people. I saw a lot of people saying, well, they do the credit card thing, you release loads of money on your credit card, or they do the overvalue the property, but they've nothing that if it doesn't work out, what happens? So I just think the important thing, and it goes to everything in life, if you want to do something, find someone who's done it really well. I even remember, and I know the guy well now, but I remember I offered my services to just literally follow this guy around as a project manager on property sites, because I wanted to know how you do this and how you do that. Yeah. And it's something that I had done because obviously I had challenges, and one of the ways that I overcame challenges was to find people who had what I want, despite circumstances maybe that they'd been through, and become successful despite those circumstances. So I didn't care what kind of people they were. They could have been an Olympian, nutritionist, developer, billionaire, whatever. I didn't care who they were. All I wanted to know is, they've got a result. How did they do that? It's tried and tested. They've made the mistakes, so they can tell me all about them and I won't do it. And they can tell me what works. And I just did what they did. And then you come up with the same or similar results. And I think mindset is a huge, huge part of it. You know, part of everything. It's whether you want to invest or whether you want to do something else, unless you have the mindset right. You know, you look at any industry in the world and you have somebody that maybe wants to open, you know, a huge franchise for shops. And then you have somebody who maybe has the same dream and doesn't. And you look at what is the difference. And I've seen a congruent pattern throughout of anybody who we would consider successful. And the only difference that I saw was mindset. The only difference. Because a lot of these people hadn't started with loads of money. So they didn't have like the kind of silver spoon. Yeah. They didn't really start with being very smart. Not all of the cases. Most of them had common streetwise and common sense. But for the majority was, how did they think? How did they approach situations? You know, how did they handle judgment? How did they handle failing? All these kind of things. And that was the key factor between somebody having that, you know, big franchises or having one shop, when both of them originally had the same dream, if that makes sense. So
yeah, it does.
Mindset.
And, you know, one of the things I always say is that when it comes to mindset, when it comes to investing, 80% of it is the mindset, and 20% of it is the skills. It might even be like 85-15, but the biggest part of investing is the mindset. One of the things I find is a lot of people struggle with overcoming the fear of taking that very first step. So you would have had that fear, no doubt. I know I had it. You probably had to deal with it as well.
Well, you know, funnily enough, I actually didn't. I was cautious. And the reason I didn't, I think, was because I had gone so much at that point. So the first 20 years of my life, I had constantly felt that I was judged in one way or another. So kind of, well, if I was going to be judged again, well, you know, so yes. Where I think a lot of fear comes from, you know, do we feel good enough? What if it doesn't work out? And if we're preoccupied by what if it doesn't work out, really what we're saying is, what will other people think if it doesn't happen? Because if something doesn't work out and you only know about it, well, you might feel disappointed, but it's not going to be the end of the world, you know. But if other people know that you haven't done something really well, well, then that's a clincher. And even stripping that back a little bit further, it's all about judgment and am I good enough? That is mindset. So if we can get over the thing of judgment and what if it doesn't work out and what if I fail and what if people think I'm, you know, in some cases, what if people think I'm too good for my shoes, or, you know, who do you think you are? So there's both sides to it. If we can get over that bit, as you said, then the skill is that part that we have to learn, but the mindset is the engine behind it.
Yeah.
And depending on how much the strength of our engine really is our mindset. That's why people say, you know, how do they become successful when they're not as smart as me? It's because they put their mind to it and they do what it takes. And they're not, a lot of people I find that maybe who are entrepreneurs who didn't go to school, you know, which is quite common, they had already become kind of failures. So another one wasn't going to make a big deal. So they just went out there and did it without thinking too much about it. A lot of from areas maybe that, you know, that they're not from affluent areas. So again, there's kind of been that life of, you just go out there and do it. And if it works out, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know, so I think that has a lot to do with it. But again, that comes back to mindset. So mindset really is a huge, huge part of anything. And that's, I think even when we look at success, how we define success is hugely important. Because if we just define success only in monetary terms, then we're, you know, in for a disaster. Because we're only looking at one thing that a lot of people have judgment on. Yeah. The reality is, society has, modern day society, probably all the way back, has judgment attached to money. So if somebody has too much, we think that they're greedy and we can't wait until they become bankrupt. If somebody has too little, well, we don't really mind, you know, we just help them and they're kind of out of the way. So people have that kind of relationship, I suppose, with money. Whereas if people looked at life, and what I believe is success is being the best that you can be in the areas you want to be the best you can be. And if we take a more balanced approach, and also taking into our energy, so whether, you know, if you're female, using your female energy, if you're male, using your male energy to achieve what you want. And the reality is, you know, we, especially as women, we can compare ourselves to success, which in today's society is somebody is wealthy, somebody who's hardcore, someone who has to step on people to get up there, and very masculine. The reality is it shouldn't be that way, because it's almost trying to be something that you're not, to achieve something that can be quite empty. And I think if you can originally approach it, or at least maybe revise it, if you look at what success is, I mean, success is about having, if you want, having a nice relationship, having good relationships, maybe if you have kids, if you don't have kids, having good relationships with your friends, being healthy, having a sense of independence, having a sense of belonging, all those kind of things, and connection to other people. They're the life satisfying things. The money is the icing on the cake, or the vehicle that allows you to do that. But if you're only chasing the money and not anything else, well, you have the money, and that's what people say, you know, you die empty. Yeah. Like, what's the point? So I think people, if people look at what is it that I would like my mind to feel like, what is it that I would like in my life, how do I want to feel as a person, and then maybe that money can help me to do it, then you're approaching it with a different mindset. You're not approaching it with, I just have to have money. You actually have a reason. And when we have a why to do something, we do it 10 times as fast. The reality is, if we have you know, a wedding to go to, or we're going on our summer holidays, all of a sudden, you know, getting in shape becomes important. Getting our hair done becomes more important than before, because we have a reason. And I think if people approach their life with a reason, the other stuff isn't as daunting, because you know you're doing it for the right reasons. You know you're getting that feeling reward, the emotional reward after the fact.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I know that we do with our investment coaching, is there has to be a dream. And the dream is what you're aiming for, and that's the lifestyle. Because we always say that if you don't have that lifestyle dream, making money is actually very easy once you know how to do it. Well, but the thing that keeps you going is having that dream to actually aim for.
Absolutely. And if you look at anybody who's made a lot of money, normally they have, I mean, they'll say to you, you know, I just wanted to make money. Maybe some people say that, but then when they look back in hindsight, and then I would have met up with a lot of older people, because they had, in my opinion, that have more experience, so their answers would probably be better. And they were all, you know, maybe some became very wealthy, but the relationship was a disaster, or they became very wealthy and they couldn't spend time with their kids, or they, you know, were totally unhealthy, they couldn't sleep, or they were stressed, or whatever. And when you look at it, that really isn't success. That's just being rich. And there's a difference between being wealthy and being rich. And I think that we should all aim for being wealthy. And again, looking at it, incorporating your values into it. So I like to help other people. So if I could look at it as two ways, is having money being greedy, or is having money creating a big enough vehicle for me that I can travel to places to get my word out there, that I can, if somebody needs it, I can help them out, that I can, you know, pay for things, maybe, you know, even basic things like you pay for a hotel room so that you can mentor. If you don't have that, then it's very tricky to explore the values that I have. So if people even can sit down and recognize what is it that is important to them at the core, and how can they use that, so that there's not this like conflict going on in people's heads, because a lot of the time that the conflict of I want this, but that goes on in people's heads, and that's the mindset struggle that people have. It's almost like a tug of war. And looking at it, certainly in the places I grew up, we had a lot of religion, so it would have been, you know, money and evil go hand in hand. Wealthy people are greedy, etc., etc. So there's that emotional attachment. If we have an emotional attachment to anything, whether that be good or bad, if it's good, we'll go for it. If it's bad, we stay away from it. So if we have that upbringing that wealthy people are greedy, then that's emotionally attached to us. So therefore it'll always sabotage either by ourselves or by other people. But when you're comfortable and congruent with what it is you stand for, that doesn't seem to matter as much, because you're doing it for a reason. You're doing it, whether it is to help people, or maybe it's not, maybe it's something else, maybe it's to help you get healthy or whatever. And no one thing is better than the other. It's about choosing what is important to you,
Yeah, I quite agree
and then
with that.
following that.
Yeah. Because coming back then to what you said about the definition of success, and a lot of people do look at the material side of it, and that is deemed the success. But I know, like, I had a car crash as well, and I couldn't walk after the car crash, and I was told that I would not walk again. And the damage I had with my spine meant that I couldn't walk, I couldn't move my right arm. To me, the focus was I had to learn to walk again. It actually took me 2 years to do it, but the focus became I am walking. And I had to learn to make money to support myself to do it at the time. But having that focus, that is a success. The money came because I had to be able to support myself. But like you said, the success is having that other goal that you need to achieve, that you want to achieve.
Yeah, and I think that takes you were put in a situation where you kind of had to think about that. And so was I. So you kind of are put into that space. And if people aren't in that space, which is wonderful if they're not, just take that time out to intentionally review what it is that matters to you. And, a perfect example is for a lot of people, if they have kids and they don't have that time to spend with their kids or their relationship or whatever else is important. And sometimes it's just freeing up time, being able to get passive income. So you don't have to constantly do those hard hours. And you can segment your time and use it wisely and do the things that you want to do. For some, it could be travel. They want to get out there, they want to see the world, explore different cultures. Whatever somebody's goal is, it's their goal. For you, it was learning to walk. For lots of different people, it's different things. And it really doesn't, no one is better than the other as long as you have the focus. Sometimes people say, I don't know what my direction is. I don't know what I want. I just want to be happy. I just want to be successful. And if you ask them, well, what does that mean? Very, very, very rare that it comes down to money. Money is the vehicle. It's always, if I'm happy, this is what it means. The first answer, if you ask someone, what does happiness mean? They go, actually, I don't know, but I want it.
Yeah.
Well, you've got to know when you have it then. Otherwise, we'll never know. So, we define it. What does it mean? What does success mean to you? And then we go after it and get your why, get that engine behind you, and take the necessary step-by-step action steps, your plan, and you have to have a plan as well to do it. So you can do it in half the time than you would if you didn't have the right mindset, or if you didn't have a why. You're just kind of going around in circles.
Yeah.
It's important to have that direction.
It is, yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Now, we're talking about your books. We started off on one book where you talked about the property, and we digressed a little into property. And then you said you wrote another book. Your second book was Born to be Beautiful.
Yeah. The reason I wrote that is because at the time we chose to have Ashton. Because I knew I was pregnant, I could again explore what worked and what didn't. And I wanted to see how I could, first of all, I knew my life was going to change. I have lots of sisters and brothers, I've a big extended family. I knew my life was going to be changed. I still wanted to achieve my goals, but I also wanted to spend time with my baby. And how was I going to do that? Because did I have to sacrifice one for the other, or maybe I could just do it differently? And I had a lot of people come to me and say that the confidence had gone down. These are people who look very confident. The confidence had gone down. Their independence had gone. They were finding things difficult. They weren't sleeping. So, they were feeling bad that they weren't like the super mom that their other friends seemed to be, to be able to do everything. And the reality is everyone who has a child, or everyone who's looking after a child of any kind, we're all in the same boat.
Mm.
You know, a child doesn't go, oh, well, I wonder what a successful child looks like. I'll be that. They just have the snotty noses, the dirty nappies. You have to do all of that stuff
Yeah.
and not feel bad about it. So you don't have to be like the supermom. So I think the reason I wrote the book was, first of all, it's how to look amazing during and after pregnancy is the subtitle. And it's about finding what it is that works for your body and helping you bounce back after the pregnancy. Sometimes, you know, you have body changes, how to bounce back there on the physical level. And then on an emotional level, which is hugely important, how to bounce back and maybe change the way you do things in order to still achieve the goals that you want to achieve. Maybe you just have to do it in a different way. In some cases, somebody may want to travel the world. Maybe, you know, it may mean, okay, let's put that on pause, but what can we do instead that still gives me a sense that I'm exploring the world? But maybe I need to put that on hold a little bit for now, or things like that. So it's helped a lot of people because it takes the pressure off. They don't have to be the superwoman. They don't have to be that person that seems to have the whole lot together all the time, that seems to have a child that does nothing wrong. You know, that, look, I remember going into a shop and Ashton, my 7-year-old, he is just vocal and he has zero filter. And I love that about him. But at times it's like, oh God. And I remember going into a shop one day and there was this lady, and I'm not sure what condition she suffered from. It wasn't dwarfism, but she was a miniature person, but she didn't have the dwarf features. Mm. And he literally chased her around the shop, speaking very loudly, look, mommy, look at that small person. And I nearly died. But the reality is you have to embrace that. And everybody has things that, you know, that aren't perfect, or that maybe you wouldn't do had you a script to write out everything that they said, or to write out everything that your partner would say, or things like that. So it's really important that we just recognize we're all in the same boat. Stop the pretense, stop the rubbish, stop having the pressure, and just be the best that you can be based on what actually matters to you. And if, in this case, you know, if you have a child, whether that be a child you give birth to or looking after, or a niece or a nephew, some significant other child, then, you know, see how you can put your time into that, but still achieve your goals. So for me, it meant when Ashton originally, he'd go to sleep kind of in around between 11 and half 12. And so I thought, well, there's a window I can do stuff. And then when he's awake, I decided that forget it, because it wasn't happening. So, but there was an hour and a half that I could use. And when he went to bed at night, there was another little window I could use. And I used those windows to become efficient in doing what I wanted to do. And now he finishes school at 2. You know, and people say to me, God, you know, you must have this massive office with loads of people there. And, you know, I don't, because I don't need it. Why would I have it? Instead, I do all my work very focused, planned out between when I get up, which would be Ashton's time for school, and when he finishes, which is 2:10. After that, it's our time. Now, not everybody can do that, so I appreciate that. But could you arrange it if in a way that you could achieve your goals, or incorporate something in, whether it's 20 minutes a week or 20 minutes a day, so that you can do something that you know will help you achieve your goals, rather than feel bad about it that you can't do it the same way before you had kids. You know, so I think it's just accepting each other and accepting, being real, saying it as it is, and telling people your goals so that we can all help each other. And that's, you know, the title of my next couple of books there is We Summit Together. And the reason it is because, well, I run the Women's Empowerment Summit, so there's a kind of a double barrel there, WE, but it's all about helping each other get to the summit, which is, as you would say, you know, your dream. But don't fool yourself by thinking you can do it all on your own. I don't know one person who can. And if the only people I know who can do that are great actors. You know, that's it. So it's just, I know. You know, the reality is, look, when I first started the Women's Empowerment Summit, the amount of women who contacted me privately and felt comfortable enough to do it, because I'm real and I just say it as it is, and they contact me and say, is it only for business women? Of course it's not. It's about all women, and not every woman wants a business. Not every woman wants to be a high flyer. Yeah. Some women are very, very happy doing what they're doing, and they just want to expand in it, or they want to enjoy it more, or whatever. So I really don't care if somebody wears slippers, you know, if they come with their hair scraggly, whatever. I don't mind, as long as they're there for the right reasons, which is to come in one way and to become more empowered in their lives and their goals, whatever it is that they choose, when they leave, and to continue that on and to grow that. And that means, if you really want to become empowered, it means doing it authentically, because otherwise it's just building an empire of fake, and that can crumble any second, and you become very lonely when that happens. You know, just looking at the people around you, getting into a circle of people who, you know, they're good people, people who are there to help you, not drag you down. Normally, you know, it's a good idea to have people around you that kind of raise your standard a little bit, that, you know, that aren't telling you, well, you can't do that, or that person failed, or whatever. People who have similar values, it's good as well. And when you know your values, it's quite easy to spot other people who have the same values, and you do tend to then bring them into your circle, and that strengthens you as a person, makes you more creative and playful. So whatever it is that you want to achieve in your life, monetary or otherwise, you can do it a lot easier. But really importantly, you can enjoy the process.
And you know, one of the things, like especially with women, the child care and looking after the kids, and you touched on something, you know, about the timing and working when Ashton's in school. And I know that with our own daughter, I'm an early riser, I always have been, and I get up around about 4:35 in the morning. And to me, the first thing I do is I sit at the computer and I write, and it's my creative time. And our daughter's adopted, and one of the things that happened was that when she came, I had this disruption that I wasn't used to at 8 o'clock in the morning to get her off to school, and we'd have to take her to school. So my husband and I altered the day around so that I did not take her to school in the morning, but I picked her up from school in the evening, because he was more the traditional work a little bit later in the evening and a later start, whereas I was the early start. And you've got to make those compromises, and you've got to work around them, because you still got to be able to give that time and give your time to your child.
Absolutely. And it's about not feeling bad about doing that. You don't have to do work as you assume everybody else does in whatever way. I mean, right now I'm at home, quite happy to be at home. My son is in the living room, and he's quite happy there with my partner. And he's, you know, he's quite happy. They're having their little moments together and doing what they're doing. And when I'm finished this, we'll do a swap. And that's cool. That's, you know, that is the way we do it. And that's, it means we feel real. And other people feel comfortable around that. And, you know, if you had to do that compromise, I wrote one of my books, and again, people think, you know, you go to a beach and you become inspired, or you have a glamorous office. And the reality is, I wrote, I think it was The Confidence to Succeed, when Ashton was asleep between 11 and half 12. And at the time I was living in Lanzarote, and, you know, I wrote it in my car because I knew he was going to sleep. So I just literally had my laptop ready. I'd have it fully charged. Soon as he conked it to sleep, I would pull up in front of the beach in the car, and I put back the seat, put the computer against the steering wheel, and write my book. And nobody would know any different. But I don't mind saying that, because that's the way I did it. And that's, you know, that's cool. And if you have to do your goals in a different way, then if people have a problem with it, then, you know, seriously, get real. We all know what life is. So there's no point pretending. And that's I think that's where the fun comes. And then if you want to invest,
I think people have this image of the type of person you should be when you do things, because I know that you know, I came from I worked in male dominated industries, so for me, when I went to work, it was always a jacket, and still I put a jacket on, and that means that's my presentation. I'm ready for work. But when I write my books, I'm actually in my pajamas, right?
There you go. How many people would know that until you told me? And anyone who's listening to this will be delighted with that.
You know, and it is. People have this perception that you do things in a certain way, and yeah, you know, I'm sat in my pajamas when I write my books because I write at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, so why would you get up? Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's funny because perception is a, I mean, it's a hugely important thing to talk about, because one of my best friends, when he met me, he said to me he thought I was an absolute snob. And the reason he did was because this is before he spoke to me,
yeah,
because he assumed that my personality would be, that's what I would be, until he got to know me. And then he realized, actually, I'm from Mayo, I'm easygoing, and
yeah.
then that was cool after that. And I think it's so important that when we view other people, when we meet other people, we realize that we're viewing them with almost glasses on. So when we see someone, depending on how, if I met, say I'll go outside and I have glasses on that are filtered with, a yellow filter, that's where I'm going to see everything. If I have a pink filter, I'm going to see everything pink. The reality is, so how you see it will predict how you respond to it. And if we go into a place and we feel, well, in order to be here, I have to be like them, you just need to remind yourself you're looking at them from a filter. All get up with scraggly hair in the morning. They, all have to brush their teeth, do all of those things. Just because they don't have to do it within that moment, that's fine. And, it's great to be the best that we can be. And we love doing that. But it's also important to know that we don't have to do that all of the time. You don't have to be Superwoman, and nobody is. So if you can get that perception and approach life from that, then you don't have to, you can enjoy the process more. Your why becomes easier because you're allowing yourself to do it authentically.
What you're saying there about, you have to clean your teeth, you have to do your makeup and all this sort of thing. And it reminds me that when I was younger and, newly married, I'd say newly married, probably 2 or 3 years I'd been married. And I used to, well, I don't watch television. I don't normally watch soaps or anything, but when I was younger, Dallas was the one that I used to watch, and they were all glamorous women, and the makeup was always perfect, and they'd get up in the morning and the makeup was perfect. So I said to my husband one night, I'm going to try this. And I put all my makeup on to go to bed. And I
wake up with an orange pillow.
Perfect in the morning. And what did I have? Mascara everywhere.
Yeah, you see, look, and that's it. And so it's just, why not let everybody be themselves?
Yeah.
Whatever it is that they want. And if you want to wear makeup, wear makeup. I like wearing makeup too, but I'm certainly not going to wear it going to bed, because like that you wake up with tears in your eyes.
With it everywhere. I just thought, I'm going to try this. I said to him, if Dallas can do it, I'm going to.
You realised you weren't Llewellyn or whatever.
It didn't work.
That was Dynasty or something. And that's what it's about. It's about, if you want to become successful, it's defining what it means to you, not what you think you should be. So if you look at Dallas and you see other people wearing makeup, well, part of your mind was probably saying, well, if I could look like that, fill in the blank. And that's, we all do that. If I was taller, if I was slimmer, if I was wealthier, if I was a better mom, if I was this, etc., fill in the blank. But the reality is you're good enough just as you are. There's not one single person on the planet the same as you. So it's like comparing apples and oranges. It's about finding who you are as a person. And I think we all know who we are if we relaxed a little bit. We don't have to go on this inner search. We know who we are. And the reason we know who we are is because we know when we're comfortable. We know when we're relaxed. That's who we are. But then it's about trusting that and allowing it and being authentic within it. And I think especially women find it very difficult to make decisions because they don't trust the decisions, because they're always looking for, well, what if I mess up? What if I don't make the right decision? If I'm a guy, and many people grow up in male-dominated environments, in actual fact, we've all grown up to this point in quite male-dominated environments, because traditionally that's the way things were. And I think, men and women are equal, but we're also different. And I think anybody who is trying to, and that's with the Women's Empowerment Summit, people think, I'm out there with placards saying that men are this, and, women are this, and it's about embracing men and women as equals. However, don't expect each other to be the same. So if you're around men and they achieve their goals in a certain way, it's unlikely that you're going to achieve your goals in the same way and be happy at the same time. We're great at relationship building. We're great at multitasking. So if we focus more on that, we're going to achieve our goals faster, rather than, well, we should be good at doing presentations, and we should be good at, how are you, the networking side. And you don't have to be. Just you be yourself and be okay with that. And if other people in your environment aren't okay with that, well, then do something else, around the right people.
Because that leads me on to something. I just made a note here, and I find it more with women, not so much with men, is imposter syndrome. And it's almost like, I am not good enough to be doing this.
It's because you're comparing yourself to the people around you. And unfortunately, and this is why I think it's so important that I'm real, and you are as well, Karen, but it's so important that we are real, because then it gives other people the permission to know that they are good enough, just as they are, in whatever circumstances that they find themselves in. They're good enough. They don't have to be something in order to achieve their goals. They have to be themselves. Well, they don't have to, but it's to be yourself. And you achieve what you want to a lot easier. So therefore you are good enough, because you're you are good enough.
Yeah.
You may not be a good enough somebody else, but so what? You're good enough you. And if you can expand on that and look at your unique personality, and you don't have to be, quirky to be unique. Your unique is everything that, that you stand for, the things, how you speak, how you look, how you embrace people, how you think, and see how can I use those to help me to achieve the things that I want to. And in the process, not compare myself to Mary down the road, who's the perfect superwoman outside, who is crumbling probably inside. Remember that. Or the high power business guy with the huge car and all the thing. We don't need that. And if you do that, it's going to be an uphill struggle all the way. And that's what I have found from being around people who are successful in lots of different areas, was they dropped that pretense. They couldn't have it to achieve their goals, because they weren't in a position of pretense. They weren't in a position of, I have this. Look, I have loads of letters after my name. How many people do you think ask me, how many letters do you have after your name? 2 in my entire practice of 7 years. 2. Yeah. They don't care, really. And the people who do care about that, then they need to become a little bit more relaxed, and get real. What we should care about is, can you do the job? Let's do it. Show me how to do it. I don't care about anything else. And when you focus on your unique strengths, you can do the job. You know what you can do. And there are certain skills, as you said, there's certain skills that need to be learned. Any skill can be learned. Yeah. You may not get it right the first time. It may take you, a different approach. It may be a case of learning about your, how your brain processes. Our brain, and many people should be taught this, especially kids at school, our brain processes information differently than other people. So some process, you've got a picturing mind, and some, when you hear things over and over, you learn. And some people, you kind of have to have that experience to do it, hands-on in the lab kind of thing. But if you try and learn a skill, like possibly the person who's teaching you, or possibly the way other people learn it, and you can't get it, then you can say, well, why can I get it? I'm stupid. Well, change it around. I worked with a guy, he was 13 at the time. I'm not sure what it is in the UK, but here we had 4th class. So he should have been in 4th class, he should have been about 9, but he was in 4th class because he repeated it 3 times. He couldn't read. He didn't know phonics. So SH, didn't know how to pronounce that. He could add and subtract, but very badly. So he really had to, tables, nothing. And he came into me shaking. And I thought, what on earth is wrong? Because I subbed for years. I just wanted the experience. So he came in and I said, are you okay? And he looked like he got a fright. And he said, well, I'm stupid. And I said, what makes you think that you're stupid? And he said, well, because the teacher told me I'm stupid, because I just can't get it. And I repeated it 3 times, so I am. And I said, okay. I said, let's just look at things differently. So let's say you weren't stupid. You managed to get here. So the reality is you have good direction.
Yeah.
And I started looking at little things like that. All of a sudden, you start to realize, actually, you know, we might have something to build on here. And when in 6 months, he was doing improper fractions and he was reading Harry Potter. Yeah. So he wasn't academically challenged at all. I listened outside his teacher's door one day, which is probably against policy, but sometimes has to be done. And his teacher was shouting tables at him. They were shouting, you know, you have to repeat things. But he wasn't an auditory learner. He learned through pictures, and it was a double barrel, pictures and doing. So when I was teaching him, you know, for example, I was teaching him his grammar, for verb, I didn't tell him stand up and say verb 10 times. He just wouldn't get it. Or write out verb 10 times. He wouldn't get it. Instead, I got a t-shirt. I wrote verb across the front and I pretended I was Action Man. And he thought this was nuts, but he will never forget verb because he's seen it and he's felt it.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, some people need to repeat things over and over to get it. So when we translate that to adulthood, we look at if we're not good enough because we're looking at how other people do stuff. And how they do stuff is not necessarily how we could do things. And if we look at, well, actually, you know what? I'm stupid if I can't say things over and over and get it. I'm not stupid if I visualize it.
Yeah.
So the reality is none of us are stupid. None of us are not good enough. It's just we need to learn a skill in the way that suits our mind, and we need to not compare to other people.
And like you said, different learning styles. I know that, like, my husband is severely dyslexic, and he struggles to read. The letters just become blurred when he's trying to read them. When he gets something in his mind, he can't actually get it out in his voice. So he really struggles that way. But he came from a schooling era where he's fantastic with his hands. He can create anything he wants hand-wise, but he wasn't allowed to do it because he couldn't do the English or the, well, he can do the maths, but he couldn't do the English. And so he had to leave school with no qualifications whatsoever, which it didn't hold him back. I mean, he became, in New Zealand, he was the top engineer in fire protection in New Zealand. Well, actually in the Southern Hemisphere. And he went all around the world. If they wanted somebody to do this specific type of engineering for fire protection, he was the one that got called in. So he found a way of getting around it without actually having to go and get the qualifications for it.
Yeah.
You know, because school would not let him develop the way he needed. My daughter is adopted. She didn't go to school, and she couldn't read when she came to us. So for her, she had learned to pick up hearing wise. Mm-hmm. Now, it's absolutely frustrating because if we watch a movie, she remembers it absolutely word for word. So she can never watch a movie a second time because, you know, I watch movies maybe 5 times and I get something different out of it, but she can't because she remembers it absolutely word for word. But it means you've got to be really careful what you say around her because she comes back and tells you word for word what you actually said. But what I'm trying to say is there is so many different ways of learning. And when you teach, like the investing that we teach, we have to teach lots of different strategies of investing because one strategy will not suit a particular type of person.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to find out what suits the way their mind works to be able to find the strategy that will actually work best for them.
And that does mean recognizing that, you know, you're not learning the same as everybody else. And we have been conditioned time from being in school. And the reality is a teacher has, and I can appreciate the difficulty within it because the teacher may have 30 kids to teach and she has to get through a curriculum or he. And you couldn't possibly sit down with each person and decide how do they learn and make a good job of it. Plus you have to consider the teacher also has their style.
Yeah.
It's potluck, really, if you know that you actually match the teacher's teaching style. And in that case, you probably get the A. You'll be the star student. But if we can explore different ways, and it's the same what you do, you know, except it's an adult version, you know, you're exploring different ways of doing things. One may suit another and the other may suit another. But it's about accepting, acknowledging, and being okay with the fact that you may not be able to learn it one way, but you might be brilliant at learning it the other way.
Yeah.
And it's about accepting that. And I think if people just drop the pressure and drop that I have to be this, and just say, what kind of person am I? How do I do it? What suits me? And then go, absolutely, that is absolutely cool. And if I need help to do it or need extra skills, who can I get to help me to do that in a way that I can actually understand? And that's absolutely fine. That's not been stupid. To me, that's been clever. You know,
I don't think there is stupid. I think there's just, we haven't found the way to communicate with the person
absolutely.
The way that suits the person. Yeah.
Absolutely. But sometimes it takes, from the other end, it takes having to ask and be okay with it. So for example, if it was me that I couldn't get whatever it is that you were teaching me, I'd have to say to you, Carmen, look, I'm not quite understanding that. And it may frustrate you that I don't understand it, but is there another way I could come at this from? Or is there another angle? Or could you help? Maybe is there somebody else in the group that could give me advice? Maybe they're teaching from a different system. But that does take a level of bravery to do it and a level of courage. But that courage comes from dropping the judgment.
Yeah.
And if anybody has an issue helping you to do something a different way, then you don't need to be with that person.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah. And I know that, like with investors, I distinguish between who is an investor and who is a trader. You still got to learn the same skills, but you interpret them in a slightly different way. And you've got to understand the person, because if you're trying to make a trader an investor, then it's never going to work. And if you try to make an investor a trader, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So, you know, you really do have to be open to understand the people who you're working with, to say, yeah, this is what we're going to do and this is how we can do it.
Well, I think that's why a lot of people don't have their plan work out. It's, I mean, how many people do you see right now who want to be a coach or who want to be an entrepreneur just because it has the title? Yet they haven't a clue, because they're not that type of person. I mean, you can put a label on yourself all you want, but you know, if you're not, if that doesn't gel with you, that label is superficial. You know, and if you can become what suits you as a person, then the world's your oyster.
Yeah.
At the moment, I think a lot of people are feeling that if I'm an entrepreneur or if I'm a coach or if I'm this or that, it gives some level of importance. And the reality is it doesn't at all, because, you know, you get someone come into your room, and if you're teaching or if I'm teaching, you know, you get someone to come into the room, that label suddenly goes. If you can't teach what you need to teach, that label means nothing. So to approach things of, can I get my message across? Can I teach this person whatever it is I need to say, or whatever it is that they need to hear? Can I do it in a clear, concise way, taking all the jargon out of it and do it simply? And if you focus more on that, and that could just simply be not even in a teaching session, that setting, that could be in a setting of a conversation.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, how can I do that in a way that suits me, in a way that works, and it's simple, and I don't have to carry the label, the societal pressure, none of that. Just drop it. Like, you need to look at what actually matters. Like, I'm sure you have people coming into you telling you that, you know, they're high-flying entrepreneurs and this is going to be easy stuff and whatever. But unless they have the mechanics of it, they're fooling themselves. So
I get the people who think I'm going to make them a millionaire next week and don't realize I'm not doing anything. I'm just showing you how to do it. You have to go and do the work yourself.
And you know why? It's because there's so many people out there at the moment saying that it's so easy. And you ask anybody who has made a lot of money or anybody who's done something exceptionally well, there is hard graft, there is focus. Yes, on the outside it may look wonderful, but that's a temporary show up. You know, there is, like you say, you know, you write when you're in your pajamas. That's not glamorous, but it gets the job done.
Yeah.
You know, I have to do stuff. It's not glamorous, but it gets the job done. And that's the part, I think, especially with social media, because social media at the moment gives it's it's very easy to give like an outward perception and with no substance. So when we have a nature of comparing ourselves to other people, and we go on our social media and we see, well, you know, John has done this so well, and Anne has done this so well, and they seem to be doing easy, and they're younger than me, or, you know, they're not as smart as me, yet why can they do it so easy? They don't see, well, actually, no, you know, that's the video.
Yeah.
The photo. You know, I put on events and people think people just show up. It's like, you know, we spoke about a wedding, you know, you send out invites, you get people say, yeah, they're going to turn up at this time, and you pretty much know they're going to turn up. If you have an event, you have to market to way more people that are going to show up. People don't realize that it's difficult. So we get people coming in and say, oh, I could do this. This is easy. They go and do it and they find out, actually, you know what? It's not easy. It's rewarding, but you do have to put in the hard graft to get there. And Pat and I mean, that's what we do. And we have to, if there's rejections, if there's, you know, you have to ask people to do things a few times, all those kind of things, you have to, you know, I suppose, put your pride in your back pocket. And it's the same with anything that we do, even, you know, whether it's investing or whether it's trading or whatever, there is that element where we have to take the pretense out of it in order to get the job done.
Yeah.
And I think if more people were real, and, you know, that's why I'm saying the things I am on this, is if more people were real, it would allow people to get the job done a lot easier, because they'd feel okay about it. They'd feel good about it.
Yeah. I could sit here and probably talk to you all day, because I have absolutely loved chatting to you this morning, but we're running out of time. I'm surprised at how long we've been going on here, because normally I'm trying to spread a conversation out rather than now I'm trying to cut it down. So, have you got any word of wisdom you'd like to give to listeners today?
Wisdom is, you are good enough as you are, and build on that, and be grateful for everything that you are. Focus on abundance, not focus on lack. When you do that, you have something solid to build on, and then you can build as high as you like, with as many people around as you want. And hopefully people will understand that and get it.
Donna, before I wind up, how can people get in contact with you if they would like to know about the summit or would like any more information about what you do?
If they contact me at info@DonnaKennedy, so it's DonnaKennedy.com. My site is currently being revamped, but the email is still working. So if people go on there, they'll see my site and they can contact me. And also I'm on social media as well. So, you know, don't be afraid to jump on and say hi. As you can see,
easy go. Don't need to be afraid to chat to you.
No, not at all.
Donna, I have loved chatting to you this morning, and I'd like to thank you very much for the words of wisdom that you've shared with us today, and for giving us your time and being part of
Thank you, Karen.
this. So
thank you. I really enjoyed it.